Hello and a warm good morning and welcome to Market Cafe. I'm Ankita Saxena and today is a fresh day, fresh start to the week, and we are here to take you through all the global cues and of course the cues back home that you need to watch out for before the trading session starts today. But let's take stock of how the Wall Street shaped up on Friday. Well, we did see a sectoral churn coming in, whether, we were seeing the tech stocks and the AI stocks rallying, but that has cooled off and the money has now started moving towards other ends of the market from the tech stocks. So we did see that happen, and S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite that nearly shed 2% and 4.6% respectively, with Nvidia and Alphabet losing more than 8% each. Meta platforms Apple and Amazon also dropped more than 4% each, while SpaceX has tumbled 17%. So we did see the churn coming in on the tech stocks. Dow Jones also, which is less exposed to tech, bucked the negative trend with 0.6% advance, and Merck and Johnson & Johnson led the 30 stock benchmark higher last week, rising almost 13% and 11.5% respectively. So that's how really the Wall Street shaped up on Friday. But the news that's coming, the latest on, of course, the Iran and US peace deal is that we did see some bit of a fire back coming in from US. As far as the attacks are concerned, there are fresh, renewed threats that US has issued to Tehran, where Donald Trump is saying that he will annihilate Iran on account of the ceasefire that Iran we saw coming in from Iran. We did see that US military also target over the weekend in retaliation to Tehran carrying out strikes along the Straits of Hormuz. Donald Trump also threatened on social media, and of course United States aircraft just struck Iranian missiles and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites for violating the ceasefire agreement. Though we do have news coming in where Pakistan is saying that they are still involved in talks, and the talks have been put on hold in Switzerland, and both the parties are still present and they will resume the talks once the tensions ease out. But on account of that, we did see the oil prices jump up. Let's take a look at the crude oil. That has jumped up over $70 per barrel on account of that, and as of now, if you look at the oil prices, Brent crude is trading with gains of 0.7%, 72.51 is where Brent crude is sitting at, and WTI is also sitting with gains of 1+% at $69.9 per barrel. So that's how really the oil is moving up, and on account of the oil prices shooting up, we do see Asian markets that are trading mixed right now. Nikkei is trading down 0.6%. Shanghai is also trading down 0.1%, though Hang Seng is bucking the trend. That's trading with gains of 0.6%, and S&P ASX 200 is trading with gains of 0.2%. So mixed cues coming in as far as Asian markets is concerned. And if you look at the implied start to Nifty also, we're showing a rather muted start to Monday morning. 12 points downtick is what is coming in on the Nifty. But let's move on then and talk about the geopolitics. The US and Iran have reportedly agreed to halt fresh hostilities and resume diplomatic talks, with a new round of negotiations expected in Qatar on Tuesday. The move comes after days of escalation strikes on US military sites and renewed tensions in the Strait of Hormuz threatened to derail the interim peace deal. Meanwhile, Washington and Tehran continue to accuse each other of violating the ceasefire. And South Korea's Samsung Group and SK Group has reportedly set to announce investments of up to 2,000 trillion won, or roughly $1.3 trillion over the next decade. According to reports, the investments will focus on semiconductor fabs, AI data centers, and advanced manufacturing under the president's flagship industrial strategy. The companies are expected to unveil the plan alongside the government's 3 mega projects initiative. And the death toll from Venezuela's twin earthquakes has climbed to at least 1,450. With rescue teams continuing a desperate search for survivors, more than 3,100 people have been injured, over 12,700 displaced, and 774 buildings have collapsed, according to authorities. The rescue crews from several countries are racing against the clock as the critical 72-hour survival window narrows, while thousands remain unaccounted for and aftershocks continue to complicate the operations. And 14 Saudi nationals were killed after an Aramco helicopter crashed near the Ras Tanura on Saudi Arabia's eastern coast. The helicopter belonged to state oil giant Aramco, with authorities saying that the cause of the crash is yet to be determined. The accident comes after Aramco's resumed crude loading at the Ras Tanura terminal following a 4-month disruption linked to the West Asian crisis. And Europe's record-breaking heat wave continues to wreak havoc, with France reporting around 1,000 excess deaths and warning the toll could rise further. Temperatures crossed 40 degrees Celsius in several countries, disrupting transport, straining the power systems and impacting healthcare services. Scientists say the extreme weather has been intensified by climate change, while rivers have warmed and shrunk, forcing nuclear plants to cut output and raising concerns for agriculture. And in an interview to IANS, U.S. Ambassador to India Sergio Gore has spoken about India-U.S. trade deal. He said that he is confident that the deal will shape up in the next few weeks and months. Listen in.
A lot of it is the language has to be written, right? And so I was in those meetings. That was 48 hours ago with Ambassador Greer in Delhi, and we met with Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, who's a great friend of mine, and we had it was very productive. There's a handful of issues that remain. A lot of it now is on the language that ultimately both sides will sign, and so we're confident that over the next few weeks, over the next few months, it'll get done. Look, to put it in perspective, we've been working on this deal for a year and a half.
Right.
The European Union deal, which is still not done, is 20 years.
Right.
And so to everybody who says, why is this taking so long? We're on an incredible trajectory of getting it done.
Let's move on then. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the United States wants to be a key partner in India's energy diversification strategy and the ongoing tensions in West Asia. Rubio said that India has been diversifying its energy sources. He also indicated that President Donald Trump could visit India early next year. Rubio said he expects to return to India before the end of this year to help prepare for the presidential visit, signaling continued high-level engagement between the two countries. Listen in.
Obviously, India has been focused for a very long time on diversifying its sources of energy. And so I think that trend will continue, and we certainly would love to be a part of that. We think we have some solutions in that regard. But beyond it, I would say that one of the reasons why the president has given peace a chance in the Middle East is the desire to see more fuel enter the marketplace for our allies. But I think the long-term, the solution really is to diversify their supplies. And I know India has been talking to not just the United States, but in Venezuela, who we're working with very closely to increase their production capacity. I think they could serve, India is one of the few countries in the world with the ability to refine the heavy crude that Venezuela produces. So I think that's a thing we would look to facilitate as well. I think it's going fantastic. It's very strong. We had a great meeting with the Prime Minister, the President did, at the G7. We're hoping to finalize a trade deal. We're on the last inches of getting it done, and it's very positive. We look forward to re-engaging again in another Quad meeting very soon, which India and I look forward to returning myself before the end of the year and setting up a presidential visit in the early parts of next year.
And the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that the lower oil prices are better for global markets than squeezing Iran through higher crude. He defended sanctions relief as a part of a broader negotiation called the private credit, a regulatory byproduct, and backed Fed Chair Kevin Warsh's independence, saying that the rate decisions should balance inflation and growth.
We had economic fury where we took the sanctions up another level, and then we had the blockade. We have allowed them to, we've unsanctioned their oil, and the Iranians were always selling their oil. They were always selling it to the Chinese and at a discount. And what I would say is, it is better for the world and worse for them if they are getting let's say it's the Brent rate, $75, $76 today, the full rate, rather than where we were a few weeks ago at $115 and getting 80% of that. So, and again, this is a very conditional, performance-based negotiation, and we are offering them carrots, and then there are sticks. When people talk about a strong dollar, I don't think it is the Bloomberg Dollar Index. I think that it means that we are doing the things that give us the underpinnings that people want to come to this country, whether it is tax certainty, regulatory certainty, energy certainty. And I don't necessarily believe that there is a duality there in a strong dollar and a manufacturing economy. I think that we can pull away in the manufacturing economy. Now, on the other side, that I do think, especially in a lot of low-cost manufacturing, that you can see a suppressed currency work against us. So, I often think it's not necessarily a strong dollar. it may be, I'll pick on Southeast Asia because they manage their currencies the most. It may just be a weak currency elsewhere. But what always worried me about private credit was that you wouldn't be able to use private credit in a downturn to restart the economy, whereas if we had a downturn, the Fed chair and I would be able to use the regulated financial system through window guidance on supervision, through opening windows, through facilities to restart the economy. So I think it will be reinvigorating, or one thing that has gone unnoticed is reinvigorating from the GSIBs to community banks, the regulated financial system. I am confident that the Fed chair will optimize the path for both inflation and economic growth. And the president said that at the Chair Warsh's swearing in that he would be independent, that he should do what he wants. And look, the president understands, he and I have talked about it quite a bit, that howitzers have taken out more governments, or excuse me, the bond market has taken out more governments than howitzers. So I believe that he has complete confidence in the Fed chair to do the right thing.
All right, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for more on the other side. Welcome back. Here, tuned into Market Cafe. We're taking you through all the cues you need to watch out for. And the U.S. federal judge's request for additional justification before dismissing the criminal charges against Gautam Adani is a routine procedural step and is unlikely to derail the Justice Department's move to drop the case, according to a senior U.S. lawyer. Now, the Justice Department has until July 13 to submit a detailed explanation. Legal experts say the courts rarely compel prosecutors to continue cases once the executive branch has decided to withdraw them, clearing the path for a likely dismissal in the coming weeks. Listen into what the experts had to say about this.
It is a fairly routine process. The government, the prosecution, the Department of Justice has great discretion in deciding whether to bring a case and whether to dismiss it. Once a case is filed, the judge has to approve a dismissal, but I'm not aware of any instance where any judge has ever refused that.
It's a formality. If they refuse to give him reasons, they give me reasons. Once they give the reasons and they say they've examined the case, it is not good enough for whatever reasons they have, you say, okay, or in larger public interest, we want to drop it, finished. It's not for the judge to second guess them. But standard, it happens every day. Only we people are hearing about it now because it's our curiosity. It depends on the calendar of the judge. It doesn't take very long.
Moving on then, Persistent has announced its biggest acquisition ever, launching a 1.3 billion euro all-cash takeover of Germany-listed Nagarro. The deal backed by Nagarro's board will significantly expand Persistent's European presence. Darshita is now joining us with the recent development. Darshita, take us through the details of this.
Right. Persistent System has announced its biggest acquisition yet with all-cash takeover of Frankfurt-listed Nagarro. And here's why the street is going to closely watch out this deal. Now, Persistent will acquire Nagarro in a deal value of an enterprise value of at around 1.3 billion euros. And through a bridge financing of about 1.4 billion euros. Now, the deal is expected to be closed by Q4 CY 2026 or Q1 CY 2027. Also, the management expects this deal to be EPS accretive from year one, excluding the transaction cost. But this acquisition significantly expands Persistent's scale. The combined revenue rises to nearly $2.9 billion, and the workforce will exceed to 46,000 employees, with the Europe revenue contribution meaningfully expanding from 9% earlier to now 22%. Also, Nagarro itself generates nearly 1 billion euros in annual revenue. Now, strategically, Persistent gains a stronger European European footprint with deeper exposure to automotive, retail and manufacturing, giving the boost to the company. Also with the digital engineering capabilities and 18,000 skilled employees. And according to analysts, Persistent is paying at around 1.3 times EV to sales with 9.5 times EV to EBITDA. Alongside this acquisition, the company has also secured a $650 million plus US technology contract with a 6.5-year tenure, offering strong long-term revenue visibility. However, the analyst cautions the integration remains the biggest risk challenge. Given Nagarro is nearly 60% of Persistent size, refinancing the bridge loan, Nagarro's lower margin and its lower growth trajectory are another key monitorables that the street will watch out for. Now moving on to the brokerages, which remains divided overall. So MK maintains an ad rating with a 5,200 target price, calling the acquisition strategically compelling, while Nuvama had downgraded the stock to hold with a 4,800 rupee target price, citing integration risk and expensive valuation, while Dolat Capital maintains a sell with a 4,720 rupees target price, highlighting margin pressure, higher debt cost and limited upside. So yes, overall, while the acquisition strengthens Persistent's global scale and European presence, execution and integration will remain the key factors for the street to watch out for.
All right, so Persistent Systems will be in focus today on account of that deal. Watching out for that and how the stock moves in today's trading session. But let's move on then. And an independent legal review has commissioned by HDFC Bank that has found no evidence supporting former chairman Adani Chakrabarti's allegations of ethical and governance concerns. The findings clear the way for HDFC Bank to seek RBI approval for CEO Shashidhar Jagdishan's reappointment. Mithali is joining us with the latest on that.
Right. So good morning. And HDFC Bank has, drawn a line under the governance questions raised by the former chairman, Mr. Adani Chakrabarti. An independent 3-month legal review found no material governance lapses or deficiencies in the board processes during the Chakrabarti tenure. According to the external law firms, board records, the witness revenue interviews and the documents, they did not substantiate any ethical concerns. The review also found no evidence that Chakrabarti had raised related to the ethics-related objections during the board or committee meetings or the opposed board decisions linked to the 81 bonds in Dubai, the mis-selling case that was brought up. HDFC Bank said it repeatedly invited Chakrabarti to participate in the investigation, but he declined, arguing that review's terms of reference were never shared with him. Also, Chakrabarti later dismissed the exercise as merely a compliance exercise and called it superfluous. The findings of this review are now clear, and they clear a major hurdle for CEO Shashidhar Jagdishan, its reappointment, a process that had been holding on a long way after the governance review. Investors responded positively. If you see on the US listed share, the ADRs were up 1.7% post these findings were made public, and review also aligns with RBI's earlier assurance that it found no material governance issue with HDFC. So with this independent review, the backing of board's functioning, HDFC Bank appears to have restored the confidence and its governance framework, and also removed a key overhang among the investors.
All right, thank you so much, Mithali, for joining us with the details of that. But let's move on to an ET Now exclusive then. Delivery's co-founder and CEO believes the industry will continue to consolidate over the next few years, and the company is a natural leader in the space. Stay tuned for insights on their growth and acquisition strategies.
It's already been earnings accretive, if you look at it. We've been declaring this for the last 3 quarters. In fact, the interesting thing is that we anticipated initially that the acquisition cost would turn out to be close to about 300 crores, and that's what we'd messaged when we made the acquisition. Interestingly, we were able to complete the integration sooner than planned and at a significantly lower cost. So that acquisition has already been earnings accretive, and it will show up fully in our next financial, in this financial year. And in terms of new acquisitions, I think, look, from our standpoint, at the right price, of course, we will continue to be acquisitive. We do believe that the industry will consolidate over the next several years. It's not just a 1-year thing. I think Indian logistics will consolidate for the next decade. And delivery is the natural consolidator in this space. And so we will continue to look out for opportunities, wherever we find them.
And well, multiple pharma updates over the weekend with Alembic, Lupin and Zydus announcing regulatory and strategic developments that strengthen their growth outlook. Aurobindo and Dr. Reddy's have also shared some updates, while AstraZeneca has successfully completed a key phase 3 data. My colleague Meryl is now joining us with the details.
Yes, we've got a whole host of pharma stocks in focus today on the back of a bunch of regulatory updates specifically. Now let's start with Aurobindo Pharma. US FDA has inspected its Auroactive facility in Andhra Pradesh and closed the inspection with 2 observations, suggesting a compliance overhang for the company in an important backward integration facility which supports the company's formulation business. Dr. Reddy's, on the other hand, is facing a much more tougher update. The US FDA has issued 7 observations after a pre-license inspection in its biologics facility in Hyderabad. Now, this is a strategically important plant for the company, given it's got a history of previous regulation observations over the past couple of years itself. This, on top of the plant's importance in Dr. Reddy's overall push towards biologics, is making this specific update quite an important one for investors to watch going ahead. On the positive side, Alembic Pharma has received final US FDA approval for a therapy which is used to treat and prevent influenza. Now, the market for this is relatively small at only around $27 million. So this looks like more of another steady addition to Alembic's ANDA pipeline. But on the other hand, Lupin has received a tentative approval for a tablet which is used in the treatment of prostate cancer. And the reference drug for this one is in the multi-billion dollars globally. So the tentative approval over here means a commercial launch will be waiting until the patent and exclusivity hurdles are cleared, which is going to be in the near or the potential future for the company. Zydus Life Sciences, moving on, has formed a 50-50 joint venture in Sri Lanka, and it has committed over $20 million to expand its regional footprint over here. Definitely one to watch in the near to medium term. And finally, AstraZeneca has reported a positive phase 3 data for a rare disease therapy. And if this is approved, it could become a more convenient as well as a next-gen treatment in the rare bone disease segment. So overall, it's a mixed day that we've seen for pharma updates, with regulatory scrutiny on the other hand, and a lot of steady pipeline approvals and launches coming in, with growth initiatives on the radar for a lot of companies.
All right, thanks so much for joining us with those details, Meryl. So the entire pharma pack is also something that will be in focus. But besides that, there are a couple of order wins coming in for various companies. And to get us the details for that, Avi is now joining us.
Let's discuss some of the stocks that will be trending in news on account of some huge order wins. First up is Vikram Engineering, which has received an order of 3,500 crore rupees from its wholly owned subsidiary for setting up a solar plant in Maharashtra of 969 megawatts. Up next is KEC International. So Power Grid has revoked the exclusion order for KEC International with effect from 26 June. This exclusion order of company was from participating in tenders and contracts of Power Grid from November of 18th, 2025, which was for a period of 9 months. So revocation from this exclusion list positive for KEC International. Up next is BEML, which has received an additional order of 5.5 million from Middle East region for the supply of heavy earth moving material for infrastructure development. Up next is Ashoka Buildcon, which has received a huge order of $35 million in Guyana. This is a letter of acceptance from Central Housing and Planning Authority in Guyana. Our last pick is Translate Lighting, which has secured new international order worth 459 crore in the T&D business.
All right, Avi, thank you so much for joining us with that. But with that, we have to wrap up this edition of Market Cafe. I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.